Before sitting down for this talk today, you've likely met a few people and asked them the classic get-to-know-you question. So, what do you do? For many of us with creative careers, this can be a tricky question to answer. We don't have titles given to us by an HR department. We are not moving up the ladder from manager to director to vice president over the years. I know I most certainly don't like to call myself by a title, and I wouldn't use the titles others have given me either. If you ask me how I fill my days, I'll tell you I write, I photograph, I teach, I create concepts for positioning brands, I help companies build their early communities. These activities pay the bills. Yet, would I call myself a writer, a photographer, or a brand strategist? No, even though I love the activities associated with all of these titles. If you ask me what I studied, the answer is interior architecture. Yet, interior designer is the least fitting title of all. In fact, creating interiors is something that scares me. I'm scared people might think the interiors I've created aren't good enough. I'm afraid I might not be good at something I was trained in and do something I'm supposed to be good at. I wasn't trained in writing, photography, or brand building, yet it's these activities that I do for work. And so you might ask, what is the difference between making a living doing what I studied versus making a living doing what I do now? It's the power of the blank slate. It's how I started turning these activities into what I now do for work. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad to be here in Graz. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to have the chance to connect with you and share my story of starting out as a freelancer with no formal training and 0 followers, and why these are gifts. In 2010, I launched my blog. I did it because I wanted to practice writing. I did it because I love the process of making sense of things. In 2011, I joined Instagram. I did it because I was curious. I did it because I wanted to take pictures and use the filters. I did it because someone told me I might like it. I had no fear diving into these platforms. I simply wanted to capture the world around me, and I didn't care and didn't expect anyone to watch or care about what I was doing. Honestly, it was great. I was free to write in a language that wasn't my own, and that I've only learned when I was 19, and I was able to make mistakes. I was free to take pictures that now, when I look back at them, weren't actually really good. The trick is, I've never stopped sending creative work into digital space. I still do it, and it's still the best thing. In fact, I'm standing here on the TEDx stage, oh my gosh, because I've published 3 books, created several projects publicly, and have, I don't actually even know how many Instagram followers. It's not that any of these books would have been bestsellers, or that I've been on some 40 under 40 list, or even that I'm considered a social media influencer. It's simply that I keep creating, putting things out into the world, sharing them freely with those who care. It's a triple-fold approach: courage, creation, and consistency, all driven by curiosity. Last year, I was asked to teach a class on social media at the New Design University in St. Pölten. And when I asked my students in the first session what they wanted to learn about, many of them asked me how to gain followers and likes, possibly hoping I would share some unheard of strategies, some simple tricks. They were rather surprised when I asked them to come up with a project proposal and share their progress for 100 consecutive days. Instead of talking about the algorithm of different social media channels, I asked them to come up with, to create something that was close to their heart, something that they wanted to know more about and improve. I asked them to make, and I asked them to create. I didn't care if what they shared was good. If they decided to start a new account or even use a fake name if they didn't feel comfortable with the quality of the output, that was fine. I didn't judge the outcome. All I wanted was for them to share their beginnings, to be able to look back, see their progress, and see they were improving. I wanted to make a point, and maybe not just one. In the words of Dan Harmon, I wanted to demonstrate that if you find your voice, shout with it from the rooftops, and keep doing so, the people who are looking for you will eventually find you. I wanted to show them that if you share what you create and what you care about online, what you're interested in, and what you ultimately want to do for a living, the people who are looking for someone like you will find you. While there might be maybe 5 people following what you do, it might be one of those 5 people who will grant you unexpected opportunities. I wanted to show them that people admire people who create. I wanted to show them that it's more important to start making than watching what other people do. I wanted to show them that what you post sparks emotion in other people. If they unfollow you, it's not because you're a terrible person. It's because of what you're making them feel. If you share what you create, you encourage others to do the same. And people love getting that permission. Most of all, I wanted to show my students that there is a freedom that comes when creating without an audience. Having a beginner's mind, the guts to practice in public, and the access to the internet, all while no one is watching, is a gift. To go back to what I was first saying about job titles, if I told you I am a writer, I would set certain expectation. You would either think I'm a great writer, or you would be skeptical about it. If I had told people I aspired to becoming a writer, even before I've published my very first book, it would have made publishing that book much harder for me. I would have probably needed someone else to also declare me a writer and give me self-confidence to do something more than practicing writing online and on social media. I might have waited until an agent picked me up and a publishing house approved of me, instead of going down the path of self-publishing. If I called myself a writer, it would have made me vulnerable. It would have allowed the world to criticize me and possibly hurt me if it did. Yet, with social media, I felt it's all work in progress, and having other people watch and see I was improving and comment on it felt encouraging. When I started working on my first book, I knew that if someone were to say the book wasn't any good, it would have been relatively easy for me to swallow that criticism. Given I had no official training or any sort of references, I didn't have to justify mistakes or failure. It was easier for me to start because I had nothing, not even my image, or as it's now called, my personal brand to lose. I wanted to write a book, and I knew I needed help to make it good. Yet I didn't aspire to become a writer. I wanted to write, and so I did. On social media, I shared my progress, and I was open about my journey to improvement. I invited others to join and correct my course, and by engaging other people in my venture, I simultaneously built a community. I never told my community I'm a writer. It always remained very clear that I am, just like everyone else, seeking answers and trying to make sense of things through putting pen to paper. Those who wanted to know more about my progress were invited to follow along. Even now, I share drafts online and make them available to those who care to read my thoughts. Writing is just one of many, many creative things I do. It's not what I attach my identity to. I don't declare myself to be good at it by giving myself the associated title. I know people only spend time looking at my work because they want to, regardless of whether it's 5 people or 50,000. When you're schooled at something, you have the official permission to do it. Yet, there is an expectation to be good. Mostly, it's you yourself who knows you should be good. And then it takes an extra dose of courage to try something out, try something new, and possibly screw up. If you haven't been schooled in a subject, you have the permission to practice in public. This is much easier than overcoming expectations associated with a legacy of training. You have permission to create and make something and improve publicly. And with time, you may even turn your passion and your curiosity into something that you do professionally because others have asked you to. I've always loved social media. I love it because it allows everyone to be and become the person they want to be. If you want to be a writer, you no longer need a publishing house to tell you you're good enough. If you want to be a photographer, you don't need a magazine to share your photographs with the world. The same goes for illustrators, actors, filmmakers, fashion designers. Literally any creative can find and be found by our community online. Whatever you want to become, you can. You no longer need a permission slip in the form of a degree or a professional recommendation. If there is one thing I would love to leave you with today, it's that you can use social media as a tool to propel your creativity and progress. You can share what you're learning and how you're improving more than you share what you're consuming and how much fun you're having on vacation. Sharing your work will make it easy for other people to follow along and see how your talent and your creativity fits with their needs. And they might one day approach you and give you that opportunity you haven't even dreamed of was possible reaching. Even if you start with a community of a dozen, as long as it's people who connected with you because of something that you care about deeply, it will be the most valuable community for your project and your passions. It might even be one of those people who will one day give you the dream job, refer you to your dream client, or put you on a TEDx stage. Thank you for having me.